Have you ever found yourself gazing at the stars, feeling the vastness of the universe, and asking, why am I here? What is my true purpose in this endless sea of existence? This profound question, echoing through time and captivating many hearts, holds an answer hidden in divine truth. From the moment the universe was formed, humanity was uniquely crafted in God's image to reflect His divine essence. But what does it truly mean to be created in His image? And how do we fit into His grand eternal plan? The story begins in Genesis, where God formed man from the dust of the earth and breathed life into him. Yet this is only the beginning of a much greater story. The divine purpose woven into our lives continues to echo across centuries, guiding us to a life of meaning, love, and service to our Creator. In the very beginning, the divine blueprint for creation unfolded through the mind of God. When He created the heavens and the earth, it was not out of need or obligation, but out of a deep, boundless love and divine pleasure. The Creator, in His perfect and complete nature, required nothing. Yet, in His infinite wisdom and overflowing generosity, He chose to create the universe as a reflection of His grandeur, majesty, and essence. Every star, planet, tree, and river was crafted to declare His glory, serving as the backdrop for His ultimate masterpiece, humanity. God desired not just to create mere creatures, but beings who could reflect His nature, commune with Him, experience His love, reason with Him, and most profoundly, choose to walk with Him in fellowship. He wanted us to be active participants in His divine plan. The sixth day of creation stands as the climax of God's work. Genesis 1:27 states, "So God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God He created them. Male and female He created them." This simple yet profoundly deep verse signifies that we were made with purpose, designed to reflect His likeness in ways no other creature could. To be made in the image of God means we were created to reflect His very nature, to be a living representation of His divine essence. This is not a mere physical resemblance, for God is spirit. It is a reflection of His ability to think, reason, choose, and most importantly, to love. We were designed with the capacity to engage with God in a way no other creature could, given the ability to worship, make moral choices, build meaningful relationships, and create with our hands. Unlike animals who operate purely on instinct, humans possess self-awareness, capable of looking inward, reflecting on our existence, and contemplating our place in the vastness of the universe. This capacity to seek meaning beyond ourselves separates us from every other living creature. Humanity's accomplishments, from painting exquisite art to designing revolutionary technologies, composing timeless music to exploring the universe, all point to a God-given creativity, intelligence, and an innate longing to discover and experience more. One of the greatest privileges of being made in God's image is our ability to form relationships, not just with each other, but with God Himself. From the beginning, God desired intimacy with humanity, walking with Adam in the Garden of Eden as one would a friend. He created us with the profound purpose of reflecting His love and goodness back to Him through our actions, hearts, and lives. Although we were created in the image of God with divine design, something tragic occurred that marred that perfect reflection: the fall of man. Adam and Eve's choice of disobedience sent shockwaves through creation, fracturing the connection between humanity and the Creator. Sin entered the world, tarnishing the perfect image of God within us. Yet, in the midst of this loss, God did not forsake us. His love remained unwavering. Though the image of God in us was clouded, it was not erased. Even though the bond with God was broken, His love for us stayed steadfast, unshaken, unwavering, and eternal. Individuals in the Bible, like King David, despite their flaws, chose to honor God, reflecting a deep desire to return to that intimate relationship. We too are flawed, stumbling and struggling with sin, but just as God's love never left David, it never leaves us. The image of God, though marred, still resides within us. Our purpose to glorify God and enjoy a relationship with Him remains unchanged. That divine calling has not been revoked. The creation of woman highlights a second aspect of God's creative work. Genesis 2:18 states, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." God recognized something was missing, someone to stand alongside man. From the very beginning, God established that man and woman were meant to be in relationship, not only with each other, but with Him. The creation of woman was not just about companionship for Adam, but about crafting someone who would share in the responsibilities and joys of life. Woman was to walk alongside man in partnership, fulfilling the divine purpose for humanity. Together, they were called to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. This partnership was essential to God's plan, highlighting unity, collaboration, and shared responsibility. The bond between man and woman in marriage reflects the very nature of God Himself. God, who is three in one Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, designed humanity to reflect His communal aspect in relationship. This relationship, particularly in the sacred bond of marriage, mirrors the intimate, interconnected love that exists within the Trinity. Ephesians 5:31-32 states, "For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh." This is a profound mystery, but I am talking about Christ and the church. Marriage, then, is a divine symbol representing Christ's love for His church. This means we were created not just to bear the image of God in isolation, but to do so in relationship with each other and with Him. We were never meant to live disconnected lives. Whether through marriage, family, or friendship, every relationship reflects God's desire for unity and communion with His creation. We were made to live in connection with others, to experience God's love through these relationships, and to reflect His glory through them. Every time we love, seek wisdom, or choose righteousness, we are reflecting the image of our Creator. These moments, no matter how small, are sacred acts of living out God's design. It is through our relationships that we experience God's love most tangibly, and through these connections that His divine nature shines in the world. With the remarkable gifts of creativity, wisdom, and the capacity for love came a significant responsibility, a divine calling that would shape our role on this earth. When God gave Adam and Eve dominion over the earth, He entrusted them with the stewardship of His creation. This dominion was not about ruling in a selfish or tyrannical way, but about partnership. Genesis 1:28 commands, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground." This command is a call to cultivate, tend to, and preserve God's creation, an invitation for us to join God in continuing His work. This divine responsibility has been passed down to all of us. We are called to be stewards of God's creation, the air we breathe, the land we walk on, and the resources that sustain us. It is our calling to care for the earth, protect the vulnerable, and build communities marked by love and justice. Every act of stewardship becomes a reflection of God's love and justice in a world that desperately needs both. God's call to stewardship is not about exploiting the earth for personal gain, but about honoring God by taking care of what He has entrusted to us. In a world facing environmental degradation, poverty, and inequality, these issues are opportunities for us to reflect God's love and justice. When we care for the planet, serve others, and use our resources wisely, we are living out the divine purpose God has set for us. The fall tragically ruptured humanity's relationship with God. In Genesis 3, Adam and Eve's disobedience introduced sin into the world, leading to brokenness. The dominion humanity was meant to exercise in partnership with God was corrupted, leading to discord and exploitation instead of harmony. However, even amidst this immense tragedy, God's love and grace shone through. From the very moment of the fall, God promised a way forward, a path of redemption. Genesis 3:15, the first promise of the coming Savior, declared that the offspring of the woman would one day crush the head of the serpent. This prophecy pointed to Jesus, who would ultimately defeat sin and death, restoring the broken relationship between humanity and God. The fall affected the entire human race. Sin still affects us today, but God didn't leave us in despair. He sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to restore what was lost. Through His death and resurrection, Jesus offered a way for us to be reconciled with God, heal the wounds caused by sin, and return to our original purpose, to live in a loving relationship with our Creator. Even in a world marred by sin, we are called to live differently, to be agents of redemption, reflecting God's image in a world in desperate need of healing. We are called to care for creation, serve others, and work towards healing the divisions caused by sin. Our purpose, even in this broken world, remains the same: to walk in relationship with God, just as He intended from the very beginning. In the chaos and brokenness of this world, we have the opportunity to be part of God's ongoing work of redemption, invited to reflect His image, be vessels of His love, and join Him in restoring the world to its original beauty and harmony. At the very core of what it means to be human is the purpose of glorifying God. 1 Corinthians 10:31 states, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God." This is not just a command for grand acts of worship or service, but for every aspect of our lives. Every moment, no matter how small, can and should reflect the glory of God. Glorifying God is woven into the fabric of our everyday choices, in the work we do, the relationships we build, and the way we treat others. Each moment is an opportunity to live out the image of God within us and to honor Him through our actions. Our purpose is not about seeking personal glory, but about reflecting God's glory to the world around us. This is the divine calling every believer is invited to embrace. We are not merely here to live for ourselves. We are here to point others toward the beauty, goodness, and truth of our Creator through our lives. The story of redemption begins with the promise in Genesis 3:15. This prophecy pointed to the coming of Jesus, who would ultimately defeat sin and death, restoring humanity's fractured relationship with God. Through His life, death, and resurrection, Jesus made it possible for us to be reconciled with God and return to our original purpose of glorifying Him. In John 14:6, Jesus boldly declares, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Jesus is the way back to the Father, the means through which humanity can be restored to its intended purpose. The gospel is not just about escaping hell or receiving forgiveness. It is about returning to the original purpose of humanity, to live in the image of God and reflect His glory. Jesus' life demonstrated what it means to live for the glory of God, with every action focused on doing the will of the Father. His healing, comforting, and teaching all pointed to the Father, a revelation of God's heart. In the ultimate act of sacrificial love, Jesus went to the cross, bearing the weight of sin and death so that we could be reconciled with God. His death and resurrection brought the hope of restoration. Through Jesus' sacrifice, we are invited to be part of this incredible story of redemption, to come to the Father, be forgiven, and live in the fullness of the purpose for which we were created. Jesus made it possible for us to return to our rightful place in God's kingdom, to reflect His image once again, not because we are perfect, but because of His grace and the transformative power of the Holy Spirit. This is the good news. Through Christ, we can be restored to our true purpose, reflecting God's image in the world. To glorify God in our daily lives means living intentionally with an eternal perspective. This perspective transforms everything we do, how we view success, and how we relate to others. Matthew 16:26 asks, "What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul?" This challenges us to rethink our priorities, to look beyond fleeting pleasures and temporary successes. True joy is found in knowing that our lives are meant to serve a greater purpose, glorifying God. This perspective allows us to remain grounded, fixing our eyes on the lasting glory of God. Glorifying God also means living with humility, something learned through the example of Jesus. Mark 10:45 states, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give His life as a ransom for many." Humility is a heart posture that seeks to put others before ourselves, radically different from a culture that often places individual success at the forefront. To glorify God, we must follow Christ's example of selflessness, laying down our lives, time, energy, and resources for the sake of others, reflecting Christ's love and humility. Glorifying God is also about relationship. We were created to be in communion with God, a relationship of love, intimacy, and transformation. The most profound part of glorifying God is found in spending time in His presence, where we become more like Him. This is the foundation of our purpose. Through Jesus Christ, we can approach God with confidence and love. Spending time in prayer, worship, and reflection aligns our hearts with God's. As we grow in understanding His love, we naturally begin to reflect that love in our lives, becoming a beacon of His beauty to the world around us. The call to glorify God extends to the world around us and to our relationships with others. God has given each of us unique gifts and talents, not for our own gain, but to serve one another. 1 Peter 4:10-11 reminds us, "Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others, as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ." Our purpose isn't just to glorify God in isolation, but to help others reflect His glory as well. This is where true community comes into play. As we serve, love, and encourage each other in faith, we actively participate in God's redemptive work in the world. This is the life we are called to live, not just as isolated individuals, but as part of a larger family of believers, working together to glorify God and share His love with others. Our lives are not in vain. We were created for a reason far beyond daily struggles, achievements, or setbacks. We were made with intentionality and purpose. The ultimate calling of our lives is not about finding personal gain, but about glorifying God, reflecting His image, and sharing His love with a world in need. This is the fulfillment of our creation. Being made in the image of the Creator means you were designed with infinite value, endowed with the capacity to love deeply, create and innovate, reason and make choices, and most importantly, to walk in a personal relationship with God Himself. This revelation shows that it's not about the limitations the world tries to place on you, but about the infinite potential God has placed within you. This purpose was never meant to be lived out alone. God created us for relationship, not just with Him, but with one another and with the world around us. We were made to share life, to be part of a larger story. We are all in this together, walking alongside each other as we fulfill the purpose God has set before us. The call to glorify God is not a far-off, unattainable dream reserved for a select few. It is the essence of who we are. It's woven into the very fabric of our being. Every day gives us a new opportunity to live out this calling. We glorify God not just in the big moments, but in the small choices we make, in the quiet acts of kindness, in moments of service to others, and in decisions made in faith. In these moments, we find the truest expression of who we were meant to be. Even in the humblest of actions, we reflect God's love and image. And in moments when we acknowledge that we cannot do it alone, that is where true strength lies. When we humble ourselves before God, admitting our need for His guidance and strength, we find ourselves walking in alignment with His purpose. The fall of humanity did not mark the end of our purpose. Rather, it set the stage for an even greater opportunity for grace and redemption. The darkness of sin and separation from God became the very backdrop against which His brilliant light of grace could shine even brighter. Through Jesus, the perfect image of God, we are invited to be restored, offered the chance to begin anew, and live the life we were always meant to live. Life in full communion with our Creator. Jesus' death and resurrection paved the way for our reconciliation with the Father, removing the barrier of sin. His love doesn't just restore us to a place of forgiveness. It invites us into a deeper, more meaningful relationship with God. Through this love, we are called to embrace our true identity as His children and to fulfill our divine purpose, no matter the brokenness or mistakes we've made. The question remains, what will you do with this purpose? Are you living with the intention to glorify God in everything you do? Are you reflecting His love to those around you? Are you using your gifts, talents, time, and resources for His glory? It's easy to become distracted by the noise of life, fleeting pleasures, or the desire for approval. But none of these things will ever truly fulfill the deep longing within our hearts. True fulfillment comes only when we align ourselves with God's will, living out the purpose He created for us. This purpose is not confined to grand gestures. It's woven into the everyday moments of life. When you care for your family, serve your community, or choose to live with integrity and kindness, you are reflecting God's glory. In your work, relationships, passions, and struggles, you are called to shine God's light. Every moment is an opportunity to glorify Him, to be a reflection of His love and goodness in this world. As you live in this way, you become part of the grand story of redemption, a story that began in Genesis and continues to unfold in each of our lives.